Yo, what's good YouTube? It's boardzy, and this is going to be a review of the Gamebitions Orbit, which is a modernized G305. It's lighter. The shape is ever so slightly different. I'll get into that later, but yeah, basically G305 shape, but lighter. That is what you are in for. It's weighing in at around 68 grams with the shell, and this mouse had been announced on Kickstarter, I think last summer, honestly. So I'd heard about it for a while, and then a few weeks ago they offered me review units. They did send out every colorway. They make a orange, a blue, a white one. It's honestly amazing. And yeah, this is going to be a review and mainly a comparison to the G305 because I think that is the only market that the Orbit appeals to, because the G305 is already so readily available at $40, multiple colorways as well. Like, is there a reason to get the Orbit over the G305? So I'm going to get into that. First thing is the quality on this mouse. And unfortunately on the Orbit there are some quality issues. I think most of them stem due to the mouse's modular design. It's basically like a ponage mouse with swappable shells. You can see the genius innovative click design, and yeah, unfortunately there is some flexing, which I would say is the main issue, because on the sides, as you can see, just apply a bit of pressure and it just pops out of place. You might wonder if this is an issue in game, and honestly, yeah, if you grip the mouse like this, a fingertip, just any pressure put down here, or if you have the mouse in your palm and you're claw gripping, just any pressure you're putting, you could potentially just have the shell pop off or just creak while using the mouse, and it's a complete non-issue on the G305, which also does have a removable shell. It's just held in a lot better compared to the Gamebitions Orbit, where there are only two magnetic contact points at the bottom. They should probably put one up here. I don't know. They definitely should have revamped the design, because that like creaking issue is very annoying. That was kind of rambly, but I just wanted to explain the issue because it's present on all of the units I've tested. It just seems like a design that could be improved on. Another issue I have is side button pre-travel and creakiness. You can see on this Mouse 5 just a ton of pre-travel. I'll show the side button design now because you can see it. It's just plastic contact making a little cross, and then it hits the switch. There's nothing that really prevents pre-travel, and they do grind and creak as well. So it's an unfortunate side button design as well. I just can't explain how not good they feel. Even compared to something like the G305, it's so much clickier, so much lighter, and just a better, firmer quality feeling. So the side buttons on the Orbit are pretty bad and mushy in general, but the main clicks in actual normal use cases are surprisingly a good implementation of Kale 8.0s. They're easily spammable. The Omrons in the Logitech G305 are definitely lighter, but one thing to note about the Orbit is if you do click it from off angles, they will sort of start to like pop around, but I don't think anybody is actually doing that in game. But just take note, like if you are doing that, you might have some issues, but when you're just clicking them normally, definitely very light and tactile feeling clicks, so not bad at all. They're not going to be the best clicks you've ever felt. There is some side to side wobble, definitely a decent amount of post travel, but they don't really break the clicks, and the G305 doesn't have the highest quality clicks either. Next thing I want to talk about is the weight, because that is the big difference, the big selling point. It is a lighter G305. It is, like I said before, 68 grams, while the normal G305, completely stock with the battery Logitech provides, is around 100 grams. This one that I have with a AA lithium battery weighs 88 grams, but you can get it a few grams lower if you use a AAA lithium battery. I would 100% recommend to anybody who uses the G305 to mod the battery out, because it makes the weight balancing a bit more manageable than what it is when it's out of the box. I'll be honest though, the weight on the Gamebitions Orbit does feel really good out of the box, and it makes me want a G305 Superlight done actually by Logitech, as opposed to this, which is Yes, it has the good in-hand weight feeling, and the shape is good as well, but it just doesn't feel as well-rounded as a product as the G305. So I would definitely take that 15-gram weight increase just for the higher quality experience. And when you factor in the cheaper price as well, it's hard to make a case for the Orbit. The differences in the shape, like I said, they are pretty minor. One thing you'll notice is that the Orbit is longer. This is not a good way to show length. Neither is that, honestly. Wait, how would I do it? Okay. I'm gonna put the mice together. And now, hopefully, you can see that the Gamebitions Orbit is slightly longer than the G305. And if you have the mice next to each other and really look for the differences, you'll be able to notice some. But I think the one thing that most people would notice is that the Orbit will extend out farther back into your palm compared to the Logitech egg shape. So it's a minor difference. At the end of the day, you're going to be gripping the mice the same way, and it's the closest alternative to the egg shape on the market. But without a doubt, the big difference you'll be noticing between the two mice comes from the weight, not the shape. And honestly, it covers a lot of the features. I can talk about a sensor and battery stuff now, I guess. So the Orbit does use a 3370 sensor, and honestly, the specs, 3370 Kill 8.0's $70. You can't really call it an outrageous price. It's just with that cheap price tag comes a overall cheap feeling product. For example, the coating, it's just a very slippery, standard feeling matte coating. It's nothing special compared to the G305, where once again it's a matte coating, but a bit textured, a bit grittier, which makes it more grippy and just like feels solid, as opposed to this, which just feels like cheap plastic. Combining things like that with the side button issues I mentioned before, along with the shell flexing issues, it's just not a high quality, like, premium product compared to the G305. And I do prefer the weight feeling in hand, but that's really about as much as I can say about the mouse. So the Orbit definitely had potential to be a G305 killer if it was executed perfectly, but it just really does not feel that way. I went into the review wanting to like the mouse, but just as I used it more and I noticed the quality issues, it's just hard to recommend over a G305. And just to quickly cover some of the final features, the stock feet are not that great for PTFE stock skate, honestly. The top skate does not have rounded edges, and in general, they're just very rough and scratchy on pads, even compared to the stock G305 skates. These are a lot smoother, and I would just say better performing on something like the Hien compared to these. I'm not sure if the mic picks it up. Just really loud while in motion, and not a smooth glide by any means. Also, the sensor 3370. At first, when I was comparing these mice, I thought there was some DPI deviation, but makes sense that the Orbit felt faster because it is a lighter weight than the G305. So really, I don't think there's any DPI deviation. The LOD by default is 1 millimeter, so quite low. And you can change that in the software along with the debounce time. Sensor implementation really did seem fine. It did not perform noticeably worse than whatever hero sensor Logitech put in the G305. Another thing, battery life. In multiple weeks of using it, it hasn't flashed low battery once. So the battery life does seem good, and it uses USB-C to charge, just a standard adapter. It's not even worth showing. Just the standard charging situation, so I would presume that the battery life is pretty good. Not going to last as long as putting an external battery in something like a G305. This will last for months on end, while you might get a few weeks out of the Gamebitions Orbit. So yeah, like I've said a few times throughout the video, I would not recommend buying the Orbit over a G305. If you are really using a G305 and fiending for the lighter weight, then you could give it a try at $70. But if you get this batch one copy, I do think there are numerous flaws on it. So yeah, just beware of those. Beware of the potential flaws when going into a purchase. That's why you watch reviews, to stay informed, know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is not something I'm going to be coming back to personally. No seal of approval. And that's all I got to say about the Gamebitions Orbit. It's a mouse with a good shape and weight, just kind of held back by the quality and features, unfortunately. and hard to recommend paying $30 more for this when you can just go out and get a G305. And yeah, that's going to be all. Like and sub if you enjoyed and want to see more reviews. Peace.